I continued working on this particular box and made all of the cuts and such that I wanted to, and this is just about ready for drying. So let me show you some of the things I did. We had the lid, cleaned out the inside. I can do a little bit better of that later as it dries. But I went to work on carving the outside. You see that I like to use a mountain motif or mountainscape, and what I wanted to do was add some decorative lines that better suggest that this is like a mountain. So I used the tool, the Kemper tool with the shovel, and I made these cuts all the way around, these scoring lines. And I cut in here to create more of the look of a mountain, jagged mountains that are reminiscent of where I come from. And that's the way I've done these for a long time. So there's one that's basically finished. I want to show you a little bit of that technique if that's something you want to try. You could do a lot of other designs with the same tool on your boxes. You don't have to finish them my way, as I said, but this gives you an idea how the tool works for the sake of whatever lines you want to put on yours. So let me set the lid aside, and I'll just quickly demonstrate how the tool works. You can vary the cut angle, you can go at it straight like this one, you can wander all over, because this pointed shovel is really good for steering, if you will. You can clean off the excess that way. You can make added lines this way, of course, and you do that all the way around the box. You also can use the same tool to make the cuts in the edge like I did and draw them down for the effect of mountains down toward. These would be, in my view, these would be reminiscent of the, say, the foothills, and this would be the distant hills in the back. And so you let your tool do some of the work and let your imagination do the rest. So you continue with that all the way around. Now, you can see that there's excess on here, and what really works well is to give it a brush with a stiff toothbrush or something like that. You can even bring up some, in wet clay, you can even bring up some added texture with a brush like that. But this is, for the most part, how it works. So, like I do, is I go all the way around to all four sides. So no matter how you see the box displayed, you get the effect. And you can work with it as much as you want, put as much detail in it as much as you want, and you can use even other tools to add more texture. So I'll set this one aside. You got the idea. And here's how I finished this other box. It goes together like this. And the last thing after I did all that carving was to put 4 holes in the top. And I used a template. I've had it for years. This is made out of a piece of linoleum floor tile. I drilled the holes. They happen to be 11/64 holes with a drill. And the way it works is I simply lay this on the top, get it right where I want it. Sometimes it's centered, sometimes it's offset like that. At any rate, I get it right where I want it, and then start drilling through using the template to guide me holding it in place. When you get all done, you have the holes like this. You have to clean them a little bit. They have clay in them, of course. And on the underside, there's a lot of clay. So I used the tool to clean that out. And the last thing I did to get this exactly the way I want it was I used this tool again. I've used other tools, but this thing, Kemper tool, works out great. I use it like this and put a little bit of a bevel on that edge. The reason why I do it is because I attach things to the top of this box. I attach sticks and other things to it, and I attach them with linen cord. Well, if I had a sharp edge right here at the top of this hole, I found over the years that it was very easy for that edge of fired clay to make something so sharp that it cut my linen cord. So as a last step, I go in and smooth out these. You can even give it a wipe with a sponge to make it even better. And when you get all done, you have something that won't damage the cord that you use. So that's pretty much the last step. So I'm running a little bit long in this segment, but I want to finish all in one fell swoop. Big task is figuring out which lid goes with which box. What have I done? Is this the right one? Well, I demonstrated on the wrong box. You get the idea. Pardon me. Anyway, the last step with these things is they're getting ready to dry now, and I'm going to show you some finished ones. The last tip I'm going to share with you is I want you, if you're going to do something and you get this far, push this out just a little bit. It's very hard to see because it's very subtle. Don't push too hard. But you want this edge to push out a little bit, all the way on both these sides before you put the box back together. the box when it fires has a tendency to shrink in. Not so much on the lid because the sides are not as high, but on this one I found that if I wasn't careful, these could fire in and it didn't make for a good box. So push them out a little bit. You can look at it with your eyes overhead, see that it has a little bit of a bow in it, and then put it back together. Now I have the right lid with the right box. And if you look at this carefully, you can see that there's an edge right here. When that fires, those will line up almost perfectly as it draws in. So this then is a finished box ready for drying. I'm going to come back, and the final segment that I show for this part will show how I get these ready to dry until they're ready for bisque firing in the kiln. So I'm going to end this and I'll be right back. Okay, we're getting ready to wrap this part of it up, the design, the creation, whatever you want to call it. We're getting ready to, or I'm getting ready to let the boxes dry. And what you see I've done is I've done all the things I said. I put the holes in the top that I can use for attaching things later, and you're going to see that in another segment. I've done all the carving. I've made sure the thing is all clean and nice. I even did that little bow that I mentioned. That looks good. Let's see if I can get the lid fitted right. Never get that right on the first try. So there you have it. The last thing that I've learned to do to make sure that these pieces stay well fitted together is to bind them together with rubber bands. And these rubber bands are the type that I get off of vegetables like asparagus and such. They're nice and wide, different sizes, different thicknesses. Well, they're the type that you don't get on a newspaper. If you get your newspaper that way, those skinny ones, they're not good. They'll cut into the clay. I like these broad ones. I collect them up when we get vegetables. And I put 2 or 3 on. This one's pretty tight, but it'll fit. To hold everything together. Sorry if I left the frame there. And that's pretty much what I do. The final thing is, these are all allowed to, I'll put one on there in a second. These are all allowed to dry together. I have all the other ones that I've been making throughout this series on a tray that you see here. This one will join them. I've got one more to cut, I'll do later. And I'll finish this one wrapping it with the rubber bands. And these are now ready, upside down, to dry. There will be a little bit of residue from the transferred from the rubber bands to the clay. I remove that with a damp sponge. If you try this, it happens to you, that's the best remedy. I've tried wrapping them in paper to avoid that. It was just too much trouble. I just wipe that residue that comes off. The rubber bands don't last forever. Eventually they get dry. If you want to sustain the life of your rubber bands, if you want to get that concerned about it, you can wash them periodically in ordinary dish soap and extend the life of your rubber bands, my goodness. Otherwise, just get some more. But anyway, now these are ready to dry. So that's pretty much the end of this. I'm going to finish the others that I have here to make a complete set of 13, a baker's dozen, I guess you could say. And when these are all bone dry, I'm going to come back and film another segment to show you what I do in those steps right before they go in the kiln. Then we're going to bisque fire all these, and I'll show you how that goes because they get fired upside down like they are right now, minus the rubber bands. And then we're going to be ready to, I'm going to be ready to show you some of the glazing steps and some of the other things to finish these and make them ready for sale. So there you have it. Thanks for your attention. I'm going to put all these segments together, make them into one big long one, and let's see how you like it. Thanks a lot.